Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're going over all the SJW moments in Black Panther. There were many, but like I said in my first hot take review from Monday, it's still a great movie worth seeing. There are a number of political themes in there though, but they're incorporated pretty damn well. And besides a few groaner social justice lines from the villain Killmonger, everything else seemed to fit in quite nicely. I'm gonna go over all the politics today, all the themes and the social justice warrior stuff in this video, which also requires me to go over most of the story too, so spoilers ahead for the Black Panther movie. If you want a spoiler-free review, go to my last Black Panther video from Monday, because this one is going to dive in deep and talk about everything that happens in the movie. So, with all that said, let's go and get started. Let's start with some of the obvious stuff. Like I've said before, Black Panther is quite the ethno-nationalist. Now this is an SJW of course, but bear with me. After we set up this right-wing Black Panther, we can talk more about his SJW villain. But first things first, Black Panther is basically a black Trump in Africa. His nation even already has its own wall to protect it from outsiders. Not only is the Wakanda wall a high-tech force field that stops people from getting in, it also has a projection on it that masks the true look of the country, hiding its buildings and signs of economic success from the world. Needless to say, Wakanda is very isolationist. They're also very anti-globalist, pro-nationalist, and pro-ethno-state. Wakanda for Wakandans, right? But only black people, no immigrants allowed. Which is kind of funny if you think about it, especially considering all the leftists and SJWs out there right now going crazy about this movie. Initially, their support is very enthusiastic. With all this nationalism and pro-ethno-state stuff, it's kind of questionable coming from the left. I highly doubt they would champion this ethno-state anti-multiculturalism stuff if Wakanda was all white people. I mean, aren't these the same beliefs that people bash the alt-right for all the time? But I guess it's okay when black people do it. Kind of like how it's okay to have black pride or say black power even. But white pride and white power is taboo and forbidden. Now, to be fair, you could maybe argue that the villain and the ending of the movie redeem itself for the left-wingers, but we're not going to get to that just yet, later. First, let's talk about the first significant SJW moment. In the beginning, Black Panther is heading home to Wakanda to go to the ceremony to crown him king. On the way, he picks up his ex-girlfriend, Nakia, because he wants her there with him, and probably he's trying to get laid, huh? You know what I'm saying? Shortly after they arrive to their homeland, Nakia starts making suggestions to Black Panther about how he should rule the kingdom. You see, despite being loyal to Wakanda and having the country's best interests in mind, always, despite that, Nakia still disapproves of Wakanda's secretive, isolationist political policies, seeing them as obstacles holding Wakanda back from making the world a better place. You know, hippy-dippy, let's save everyone crap. Nakia wants to help everyone, and instead of just sticking to their effective, efficient measures of keeping just Wakanda safe. And despite her duties as a spy being mainly espionage and little else, Nakia consistently gets involved in conflicts for the good of others, adamant to use her abilities to help those in need. This is what she was doing when Black Panther interrupted her mission at the beginning, when he picked her up. Nakia's insistence of not sitting by idly while others are suffering, coupled with her open disapproval of Wakanda's isolationism, results in her constantly being outside of the country helping others, when she doesn't need to. Nakia's stance and her headstrong attitude often have her coming to idealistic clashes with Black Panther, despite both having clear romantic affections for each other. So Nakia suggests that Black Panther use Wakanda's wealth and technology to help the rest of Africa and the world too. But Black Panther isn't too keen on this, saying getting involved in foreign affairs isn't Wakanda's way. He resists initially, but he's certainly beginning to consider it, especially since a hot chick told him to do it. Moving forward, a few other plot points happen, and eventually Black Panther brings this issue Nakia mentioned up to his best friend, W'Kabi. He asks W'Kabi if they should help other nations and other blacks in the world, and bring in immigrants even. But W'Kabi responds with a harsh no, saying bringing in immigrants brings in their problems too. And this of course sounds strikingly similar to some conservatives in America today. People who complain about immigrants, and it even reminds me of some of Trump's speeches about it, specifically when Trump said Mexico isn't sending their best people. Wakanda and W'Kabi here represent the same anti-immigrant, pro-isolationist sentiment. And as we go through the movie, we're slowly seeing Black Panther, the king, turn against that way of life. W'Kabi and the isolationists look selfish and old school, while Nakia and soon Black Panther, they look forward-thinking and helpful, according to SJW logic. But some of this doesn't happen till the very end. Black Panther retains his Wakanda traditions for now. That is until he faces off against the main villain, Killmonger, who is certainly the most SJW part of this movie. Fortunately though, he has good motivation, so him acting like a Black Lives Matter member for most of his screen time kinda makes sense. You see, Killmonger's backstory is a bit tragic. He's actually Black Panther's cousin. Their fathers were brothers. And while Black Panther's father was king, Killmonger's father was prince and a spy sent out on a mission. He was supposed to be gathering intel in Oakland, California in the 90s, which we see in a flashback. But when when Black Panther's father found out his brother was selling Wakanda's secrets for cash and glory, he was forced to relieve him of duty and wanted to bring him back to Wakanda for trial. But before he could do that, Killmonger's dad pulled out a gun and Black Panther's dad was forced to kill him to save his friend's life. And after this flashback, you initially think that's the end of it, but we later realize Black Panther's dead uncle had a son, Killmonger, who was left there alone in Oakland to his own devices. Come on, Black Panther's dad. Don't you guys know this is how you create a supervillain? Come on.
I mean, come on, people.
So Killmonger grows up with a big chip on his shoulder, obviously. He learns to fight, becomes a Special Forces spy Black Ops guy, who racks up kills in battle like he's playing Call of Duty on easy mode. Eventually that brings us back to the story of this movie, where Killmonger begins enacting his revenge plan. Killmonger wants to forcibly dethrone Black Panther in order to accomplish his own father's plan, which was to seize control of the world with Wakanda's technology, and to stop what they perceive to be as oppression of people of African descent by the world, namely by white people, of course. Killmonger is essentially an SJW villain at this point. He's like a BLM leader for the whole world. He wants to save all the black people. He even drops in some groaner lines like this: "You all are sitting up here comfortable. Must feel good. There's about 2 billion people around the world who look like us and their lives are a lot harder. Wakanda has the tools to liberate them all." Identity politics at its worst. And it's also basically a black power kind of thing. Killmonger identifies with people who are the same color as him, even if he doesn't know them, or they could be assholes or something, but they're both black, so you better save them. And it also appears Killmonger despises people who aren't black, namely white people, huh? And at the end of the movie, Killmonger even says this: "Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors, who jumped from ships, because they knew death was better than bondage." This of course references the slave trade, and we all know mentioning one's ancestors were slaves is pretty much the most SJW thing you can do. Black Panther later teams up with a straight white male American spy. His name is Everett Ross, and this character is the victim of some pretty fierce anti-white racism in the movie. When Ross joins Black Panther and the others as they beg the northern Wakandan tribe to help them in the final battle, something interesting happens. When Ross goes to speak to the northern king, all the Wakandans just start barking at him. Apparently whites aren't allowed to speak in the throne room, or something like that. And while this is kind of understandable, all things considered, thinking about the kingdoms and the throne rooms and the outsiders not being allowed, it was still a funny anti-white moment I noticed. One which the SJWs would be proud of, and ironically, they would be up in arms about it if it happened to any other race. In fact, there's even an article from theroot.com about this. It's called "We Need to Start Barking at White People Who Speak Out of Turn." Yeah, it says people should start doing this kind of stuff to people in the real world. Not kidding. But maybe they are. I can't even tell if this shit's satire anymore. Anyway, one more thing before we get to the ending. There was a bit too many women in this movie. Not to sound sexist or anything, but I just noticed that everyone was a woman besides Black Panther, for the most part. I don't think it ruined the movie or anything. It just seemed like a little forced and SJW-y. Like they squeezed as many girls in there as they could. But don't get me wrong, all the actresses were great, but it just seemed a little weird, especially compared to the tribalistic setting. Sure, Wakanda had the most advanced tech in the world, but they also dressed in full tribal gear, fought with spears, and they decided their king by ritual combat. And you think that might mean things were a little more patriarchal too, and run by men and stuff, to go along with the tribal thing, but no, the women were still everywhere, in charge of everything. Half the tribe leaders in the throne room scenes were women. The king's personal guards were all women. Black Panther himself is constantly surrounded by women, like his ex-girlfriend, his sister, his mother, every scene. The only other dudes in Wakanda were the wise old man and the one friend of Black Panther, the guy I mentioned before. And these two had far smaller roles than anyone else. So I would say this appears the SJWs definitely took every inch they could get with the casting here and the focus of the movie. I mean, the cast was already 95% black, but that wasn't enough. They needed the main actors to be mostly female too, and females in most of the scenes all the time. I even heard there was supposed to be a lesbian love scene that was cut out of the movie. So it looks like they were originally going even further with this pro-women SJW shit. Finally, let's get to the ending, where Black Panther goes a little SJW himself. In the final battle, Black Panther defeated Killmonger. Obviously, he severely injures the villain, but when Black Panther offers to save his life with the Wakanda tech, Killmonger refuses. That's when he delivers that SJW line I said before, about how he'd rather die than live in bondage. Slavery is bad, okay? Don't forget it. And although this line seems very cheesy in hindsight, Black Panther is actually moved by it. After realizing his father killed his uncle and left Killmonger in Oakland to fend for himself, Black Panther starts to think his dad and the Wakanda ways may may be somewhat questionable, or a lot of it. This leads to the final scene where Black Panther and his sister visit Oakland themselves. Come to find out, Black Panther has bought the old apartment building where Killmonger and his dad lived, and he's bought a number of surrounding buildings too. His plan is to turn the area into a Wakandan outreach program, to not only help the neighborhood kids there, but to also help facilitate the transfer of knowledge from Wakanda to the rest of the world. That's right, Black Panther has finally been convinced it's time for his people to stop being so isolationist and start contributing to the rest of the world with their money and their tech. They've basically become neoliberals and kind of globalists partly, and that's why I think the real world leftists can still support this movie, because in the end the hero turns a little bit SJW. Sure, he's not as radical as Killmonger was. He wanted to arm the blacks around the globe and give them high-tech weapons to kill Whitey. Black Panther doesn't go that far, but it is a start. In the end, it actually turned out this movie didn't just have SJW moments. A lot of the main plot points had direct relations to SJW politics and themes. The whole story was interesting and well done though, so it was really no harm, no foul. In fact, I would say the serious political angle helped the movie a lot. It was certainly something different for Marvel and comic book movies. It was refreshing, and I also think it was a win for us and other conservatives and anti-SJWs too. Even though Black Panther went SJW a little bit himself in the end, he went there just enough to be reasonable and understandable, especially considering how rich and advanced Wakanda is. It makes sense for them to share a little bit of the wealth. But if we're talking about the United States taking on more immigrants and giving out more charity, well, we're no Wakanda. Let me just put it that way. What do you guys think? Were there any SJW moments I missed in Black Panther? Did you like the movie? Did the SJW moments I mentioned ruin the movie? And was Killmonger a big Black Lives Matter SJW thing that I thought? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.